You suffer, and I know why you suffer. I don't care how rich you are, how poor you are, how happy you may be right now, or how unhappy. Even if your unhappiness will restore to happiness, you still suffer. This goes deep to the core, and I warn you, maybe you should better not listen to what I say, because it will change your life radically. You suffer, and I know why you suffer. I don't care if you just won $10 million in the lottery, you suffer. The reason for that is that you identify yourself with your personality. That is why you suffer. You will see. Now, this personality constitutes of 5 groups, so to speak. Corporal group, and then the basis for other groups: sensation, perception, mentation, cognition. And even through the activity of the organs, of your sense organs. That is suffering. And many of you may say, well, I enjoy life, why am I suffering? I enjoy my senses. So if you say that, or if you really believe that, don't continue listening to me. Because then you are not yet ready for the truth. You did not yet find the suffering aspect in everything that you are aware of. Dear friends, what are we aware of? Transitoriness. And let's begin with the transitoriness of your own body. Your own body is born, lives, and dies. Now you may say, oh, no problem. Right now I'm young and I enjoy, and death is later. I was sitting at the deathbeds of many people. And I assure you, no matter if they're rich, poor, young, old, they don't want to die. Very few said, I'm happy it's over. And most, or many of them said it because they didn't get what they expected from life, and they don't know that such thinking will cause their reincarnation and new death. The Book of Light teaches there is not even life. You don't live. In this transient world, you die. Birth is the beginning of a death process. Death, its end, or birth is the beginning of a transient process of dying, and death is its end of that process. The desire for this existence throws you back on the wheel of life and death, on samsara, the wheel of rebirth, which basically is not a wheel really, because it's a spiral, you know, because there is unbelievable as it may seem when we look around in this insane world ruled by insane people, there is development, yes. Everybody wants to know, who am I? And they're looking exactly in a place where they are not, which is their non-self, as we call it, anatta. And you will see what I mean by that. Let's take a look at the world of suffering, and maybe you agree to it that suffering is closely connected with transitoriness. Something that is transient is taken from us, and we don't want that. Basically our physical body, not to speak of the other realms, mental body and spiritual body and astral body and so forth. We don't talk about that now. So something that we enjoy has been taken from us. And it changes right now every second. Every 7 years you have a new body. Did you know that? Ask any good doctor or biologist. Every 7, let's say 8, 9 years, the molecules of your entire body are new. You have a new nose, new head, new eyes, new hair. You may not believe it, it's so. So right there you can see that you are not the body. Otherwise you couldn't remember 7 years back or 10 years back or 20 years back. You couldn't remember. Because even your brain is new. What is that which enables to you remember? Think about that. Think about that. Let's first take a general look at the cause of suffering as transitoriness. Look at the water. Everybody talks today about earth and climate and so forth and so on, and they don't take into consideration that the climate will change with or without you because it changes. It's transient. Let's take a look at the water. The water is rising and falling. And when that happens, the external earthy element will disappear. It will reveal itself as transient. It will show itself, dear friends, listen well, subject to ruin, destruction, and all vicissitude. And when that water will rise, we're just talking now about the rising of water, not of the sinking. Come later to that. It will swallow, it will sweep away villages and town and city and province and kingdom. And the time will come when the waters of the great ocean will sink. There will suddenly be no deeper of the great ocean than 100 miles, than 7 palm trees. Let's take this Buddhistic definition. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That's a countdown, dear friends. The countdown of truth of transitoriness. The countdown of the world of suffering, glory to the book of light. You can receive this book at no expense, 5,500 pages. Just contact me and I'll send you the link of the PDF. That book was dictated to me by the great Johann in Los Angeles, where I got my basic lessons. I can assure you of that. So a time will come when there's no more water on earth. Sure, everything is under the law of transitoriness. And a time will come when the water goes not even to your loins, to your knees, to your ankle, and to one joint of the finger. In this day, the great external watery element will unmistakably reveal itself as transient, as subject to ruin, destruction, vicissitude. Now what's with the fire? The fire is eternal, right? Eternal light. Or really? There will be a time on earth, dear friends, where the fiery element will be raging furiously. It will devour all forms, village, town, city, province, kingdoms, everything. And it will spread over meadows and pastures, jungle, plain, pleasure grove, whatever. And when there is nothing anymore to devour, then it will cease. Excuse my horrible English, but I try to do what I can. So this fire will only end when there is naught to devour. And then man will try to maybe, preserve fire with a fan. or something. In those days, the great external fiery element will unmistakably reveal itself as transient, will show itself subject to ruin, destruction, and all vicissitude. Dear friends, I mentioned the elements because you're made of them. Your anatta, your non-self, that to which you cling so desperately, is made of these elements whose transitoriness I just am proving to you. Don't cling too much to that which is taken away from you. More I can't say. Now, let's get to the air we breathe. I had pneumonia 6th time. Doctor says, why are you still alive? I know why. To talk to you. The external airy element, too, will rage in fury and carry away in storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, village and town and city and province and kingdoms. Dear friends, all the elements are nothing but veils of element angels. Okay, think about that what you want, what I told you now. So then they take away village and town and city and province, kingdom. And in the last month of a hot season, everything will be dry and thirsty. And in those days, the great external air element, of which you are also made, because air there's also in your body, not only by inhaling, exhaling, but you're also filled with air. This external airy element will reveal itself as what? As transient, subject to ruin, destruction, and all vicissitude. There you see that you are made of the 4 chief elements, to show itself subject to the great law of transitoriness. That is the reality. And now look at your body. Can you say then, because that's ripped away from you over and over again, that you are that body? Can you say I, mine, or I am that? Verily not. Because your body is also subject to ruin, destruction, and all vicissitudes. I had the most beautiful and famous women in the world. And when I think at the time, 40 years ago, when they were 20 or 30, and I look at them today in the papers and so, I get a shock. I would not say that I love them less or whatever, you know. But I just mean, I see the horror of transitoriness. Therefore, I tell you, your body too is ruin, or subject to ruin, destruction, and vicissitude. Yes. This corporal form of yours is transient. And what underlies the arising of the corporal form, what conditions it? I mentioned to you now the elements. Ether will flow in more and more in our solar system, by the way, and the bodies will become more and more refined. And the future generations will be sexless sooner or later. Well, I went too deep into the Book of Light. Write to me and I send you 5,500 pages of the Book of Light at no expense. So, now, well, okay, the corporal form arises from that which is transient and therefore it's not permanent. But how about the sensations, which are so thrilling? We are attached so much to the sensations. Well, they are transient too, no? What underlies the arising of sensation? What conditions it? That too is transient. These sensations arise from that which is transient. How could they themselves be permanent? This is just wishful thinking. If you even think about something like that, to have an eternal sensation, not possible. But how about perception? What about perception? Oh, perception. Transient too. Because what underlies the arising of perception, what conditions it, is transient. And a perception arisen from that which is transient cannot be permanent. It's not possible, as much as you wish it. You may wish it as much as you want. It's not possible. But now we found something. Cogito ergo sum. Oh. He is our savior, Descartes. He said, I think, so I am, or therefore I am. Really? In soul breath meditation, and if you read this little booklet, Divine Message from the True God on Amazon, there's a little book, you will see that in soul breath meditation, the moment will come when you even don't think anymore. For many people, it's not thinkable not to think. They can't even sleep without pills because thoughts block them, hinder them from sleeping. You know, that is a problem. So many of them may say, I am my thoughts. You may be right with all the rest of it. I am my thoughts. Are you really? Thoughts come and go. In meditation, you will experience that there will be a moment where you don't think, then you should lose your consciousness, you should die, or you should not be there. You still can remember that moment, so you are not your thoughts. Thoughts come and go. Activities of the mind are transient. And what underlies the arising of the activities of the mind, what conditions them, that too is transient, no doubt. How can the activities of the mind, which arise from something that is transient, how can they be permanent, dear friends? Let's still see, I lead you here to true immortality, by the way. And all you have to do is to use common sense. When you say all that I am aware of arising and passing away is not myself, then the true immortal you is saying that, the timeless eternal. And you can base that, and you can make a better foundation even with meditation and by studying the Book of Light. It explains to you the entire machinery, 311 trillion, 40 billion years, one Mahamanvantara of arising and passing away. So there is no Big Bang. There is a reawakening of the entire universe out of latency, over and over and over and over and over again. Study the Book of Light and you will understand. And that will unite evolutionists and creationists, because these two exist. Everything evolves. Then it is furnished by other powers, by karma, with vestures to be able to live in this world. And these vestures are taken away again. But the monad itself, the beings are not created. What do I say? There are three things. Uncreated, timeless, eternal. All beings, the source and root matter. We call it Mula Prakriti, the one element. I know I am aware of my greatest failure, sidetracking. Forgive me. Let's continue with transiency. But how about cognition? But cognition, that cannot be transient. Or, take a look at it. What underlies the arising of cognition, that too is transient. What conditions cognition is transient. How can something be permanent, like cognition, when it arises from that which is transient? From you, you are transient. From your physical body, I should say. You are the true immortal God who uses mortal body and is not aware of it. Jesus said, do ye not know that ye are gods? So, let's take a look at the body. Now, I think until now you could follow me to say, Lanoux is right, the body is not permanent. It is transient. You agree? Or maybe there are some among you who live since 10 billion years. I don't know, maybe you're immortal, but I don't know of any of those people. So your body is permanent or transient? Transient. The worms will eat it. This is why I always say burn it when the time has come. Funeral, with fire. Now, when your body is transient, and we come to the conclusion that transiency is painful, then your body, you cling to something that will bring you sooner or later pain and suffering. That's what I mean. Pain and suffering. Now what about, I was talking about sensation, perception, activities of the mind, cognition, you remember? Is it permanent or transient? Many of you may still think or argue, Lanoux is wrong. It's permanent, it's permanent, it's permanent. No, it's not. And what is transient? Is it painful or pleasant? Of course, painful. There may be a certain pleasantness while you enjoy your body when you're young, when you're healthy, when you're this, when you're that. First of all, you don't have to get 90 years or 100 years until you die. You can die now in this second. The Book of Light teaches every being has a certain amount of breath taking. See, this is why dogs, for instance, animals die earlier, because they have a faster rhythm of dying. Dogs, when you look at the dog, even when he's relaxing, when you meditate in soul breath meditation, you will experience divine pause. Don't force it or you end in an insane asylum, but you will experience divine pause between exhaling and inhaling. And you will see that you need very little breathing. That will prolong your life if karma permits it. But of course, it doesn't make you immortal. Okay. Look at managers when they are constantly breathing like faster than dogs. Yeah, well, the phone. Oh, yeah, a moment. Yes. Hello, how are you? Oh, I can't. Wait a moment. Hey, come here. But please tell me. No wonder that such a guy is maybe dying with 40, 50 years of a heart attack. No? There you go. Dear friends, there is the painfulness in consequence of every satisfaction of will. Nothing but suffering caused by what? By its loss. By its loss. You can deny that. You can say, oh no, when death comes, it comes. I told you, I was in the hospices, in the hospices within Germany hospice. I saw them dying, young, old, Christians, Muslims, atheists. Dear friends, our topic today is suffering. And for many of you who listen to me, it may seem that I'm very pessimistic. I'm not. I'm not. I'm very optimistic. Because I show you the world of suffering. The Book of Light shows you the world of suffering and how you can escape from the world of suffering. Isn't that wonderful, dear friends? Beautiful. But first we have to see what I mean by it. We have to dive deep into the matter of suffering so that finally we may decide to detach from that which causes suffering. Glory to the Book of Light, dear friends. Let us be honest. We don't have to do some pseudo-esoteric and go into some astral spiritual realm, some guru stuff and so. That's not necessary. We remain at both feet here on earth. And we come to a conclusion. At last, there remains of every satisfaction of will nothing but suffering caused, as I said, by its loss. Only that, And when you use common sense, makes you to judge the world, your life, body, so-called soul, and so forth. Which is, by the way, according to the teaching of the Book of Light, also matter. The spirit, what the people call spirit in the Bible or the Quran, is nothing but a most refined, to us invisible sheath, a body. That is transient too. You are the being that clings to that. That's different. Sanya Vedayitani Rodo. The abolition of perception and sensation is the highest state of being in the world. Solve the riddle. Suffering. Not only why we suffer. See, first I show you how you suffer. And that's why you suffer, and then how to escape suffering. Yeah? When death comes, as I experienced in other people many times, then to average people, more and more comes clear that whatever they identified themselves with, they are or were not. They were not. They are not. But thirst for that which is now ripped away from them causes their reincarnation. That is the reason of reincarnation and new karma. And they set new actions, they reflect on them, and that causes reaction, and thus people, or man, female, woman, beings experience or learn what to do or not to do. Because everything you do reflects on yourself. You do it to yourself. You do it to yourself. So. And so what is then yesterday with all its pleasures? When you lay there, your own body in the pangs with which you are wreathing, and the rest of the world is taken away from you, an ocean of suffering. What is to you today, yesterday, with all the pleasures? Just a shadow, a shadow. And tomorrow, split that word, to-morrow. You know why they use these terms in English. It's very interesting. Tomorrow. Pain and sorrow, morrow. So what comes is tomorrow. Think about the power of words, about the occult power of words, dear friends. Their true occult meaning, tomorrow. So the Book of Light is right. Everything is, ultimately, everything that you are aware of as arising and passing away is suffering. Thus also even the life in highest heavens, proven to be transient, no matter how long it lasts. So, tomorrow. If you want to pass a competent judgment on this truth, go to some deathbed and look what is going on there. Go to the deathbed of a sensualist and you will see all his good life, all his good food, everything caused. I think of Kurt Jürgens, which is a movie star also known in Germany. I knew him. Eating, drinking, sex and everything. And I knew that the last 6 months of his life were in such pain on the deathbed. You cannot imagine. You cannot imagine. So in consequence then, what remains is suffering. To the extent of your attachment to that which is being taken away from you. Glory to the Book of Light. Do you suffer? Not yet, or some of you may say, oh, I'm beginning to suffer. It's good. It's a healing process. All the life of pleasure, this man on his deathbed, Kurt Jürgens, has squandered all he had and finds himself face to face with nothing. Certainly the will to life struggling for its right to existence and defending itself daily in innumerable brains, still argues, namely thus, that at least the fruits of the labors, pains, and troubles, and so forth, are reaped by the relatives. Well, do you know what they do with that stuff that you left them? We have many examples that they squander it. Many examples. So the play begins a new karma, reincarnation, and so forth. And this is why they removed the teaching of reincarnation from the Bible, because it was in the Bible. That teaching urges people to be responsible for their own lives, not to think about a savior, Jesus. Yes, Jesus exists, but not as you think. Not as you think. You Bible people, unfortunately, soiled the name of Jesus. Therefore, study the Book of Light. And if there's evolution, I say, and the Book of Light teaches, there's at best moral evolution. We come from the source, we go to the source. We have to mention here in a few sentences the entire teaching of the Book of Light, 5,000 pages. 3 things exist. All beings, the source, and root matter. These 3 are uncreated, timeless, eternal, and they interact periodically. When they interact, beings, almost endless many, leave the source and fall into material world and surround themselves with forms aided by other beings whose karma it is to supply them with those forms. But the beings themselves are uncreated, timeless, eternal. Why do they leave the source? Because they have to. The truth has to set them free. This is why Jesus said, the truth shall set you free. Ignorance caused them necessary ignorance to leave the source, to surround themselves with material world, and to see that they are not this. And then by detaching themselves again, they finally reach the source, and that is nirvana, higher than any heaven of religion. And meanwhile, they evolve as minerals, plant, animal, man, angels, and so forth. And yes, there is also creation. Dear creationists and evolutionists, you don't have to fight against each other. What creation is there? The beings, when they fall in matter, I mentioned it already, when they surround themselves with Mula Prakriti, with elemental matter, they are supplied with material by other beings in order to be able to live and to learn on these levels. Now there is a creation process in the sense of these other beings supply those beings below them with material, be it refined as it may be, spiritual and astral, mental, and so forth. It's just a hint, dear friend, a hint. And then everything is swallowed up in the material, in the source again. And why do the beings return if they have not outlived yet their desire? There remain skandhas, permanent atoms, which draw them back into material world. So everything comes from the source, goes to the source. There is no external, extra cosmic God that has created this insane world ruled by insane people. Because if God is perfect and all-knowing, he must have known how the world would be. And when you ask people, Christians, it's a trap question, I know. I ask Christians and Muslims and Jews and so forth. Did God know that Adam and Eve would fall from paradise before he even created them? Did he know that they would sin? They answer you, yes, he's all-knowing. I said, well, then he is to blame. Then they were created to fall. No, they had a free will. I said, no free will. If God knew ahead what will happen, he is responsible. You present God as a monster, you insult God. Most of these people then get very upset, and that's the end of it. So I ask you, my friend, are you suffering? I listen sometimes to these wannabe gurus on the internet. There's one from America, Anthony something. He's 3 meters high, obviously a remnant of some black magic Atlantean times. And he helped, he said he helped, yeah, I see how, Michael Jackson and others. And he is rich and he has some helicopters and some jets. And his main teaching is, be passionate. And to that I say, are you insane? Are you insane to teach the people be passionate? Do you know what passion means? Derives from the Latin passionare. It means to suffer. So what you say to people is suffer. Because if you follow a goal in the world passionately, you will suffer. That's why it's called passion. And what do the people do? They give him the money, and they're very passionate, and they end in disaster. I had some of these people coming to my temple in Los Angeles. All money gone. They didn't even have something to eat. I said, be passionate. And they looked at me very sad. They said, please don't mention that word. Well, that's how you learn. They said, we followed the wrong guru. I said, no way. You followed the right guru. What do you mean? I said, he was perfectly the right guru. He taught you how in future you should not, which kind of guru you should not use. Be passionate. Yeah. That's how we learn, dear friends. That's how we learn. So then, are you suffering, or do you suffer? Do you suffer? When we look at life, how all beings struggle. Book of Light teaches even minerals struggle. Well, maybe that was a bit too far what I said, but it's true. They struggle for the right to exist. They defend themselves. They want to say, I want to live. And life can only exist on the expense of other life. This is the cruel in this Manvantara. You must eat other beings who don't want to be eaten. You think an apple wants to be... You think a nut wants to be eaten. Why do you think the shell is so strong? It wants to live. Everything that lives does not want to die. Even if you are a vegetarian, fruits, apples, vegetable salads, they don't want to die. They want to live. Not to speak of animals and so forth who have more developed nerve systems and suffer horribly. By the way, all animals derive from man. I just give you that hint without saying any more. So, this is teaching of the Book of Light. Dear friends, there is an impossibility of any lasting satisfaction of will. This impossibility prevails throughout entire world. And therefore, final domination of suffering. It's evident. It's obvious. It cannot be refuted, nor can it be ignored. The will of man is so strong that, according to his ignorance, of course, I say necessary ignorance, that it enables him to ignore fundamental truth of transiency, the entire world, as I now hinted to you already in explaining it. Yeah? So man something in him may understand what I say, but basically these people, and I don't blame them for it, they try to slur over it by empty sophisms because they don't want to see the truth. They want to babble over it in high-sounding phrases of reaching a final state of bliss. Well, and few of them are able to understand that upon youth follows age, upon health follows sickness, and upon life follows death. This is as clear as the skies in heaven. Although because of chemtrails they are more less and less clear. Okay. So, dear friends, we cannot, I cannot pound and pound and pound into you that this is as it is, if there isn't at least a little will to understand it. Yeah? Then I can only say, go, live your life and do what you want. Because I say then, you are incapable of seeing clear. And for an objective observer, it is difficult to come to any other judgment in regard to life, if he is objective, than that which I said now to you. Then you will understand the truth of the words. Impermanent are all the compounds of existence. Painful are all the compounds of existence. Maybe I'm a little bit too loud. Sometimes, oh my God, I say now a word. I'm very passionate about saying this. I think I should calm down a little. Listen, my microphone just is broke, and tomorrow I get a new one, but I want to use, because my life power is not very strong right now, I want to use every second and minute and hour to tell you these things. I hope you understand me correctly. And with the help of our wonderful Nilakanta, she will enable us that you can understand me in spite of no mic, but the mic of the computer. Now, some of you may argue, and I understand that especially in light of this view, what I said, they may agree. But they may say, or they may withdraw to the standpoint that therefore, because I said that, only the present time is real. So that it is the highest wisdom and knowledge to enjoy this present and to make this present the purpose of life, indifferent to any later thing that happens. You could also console yourself, that's what these people do, about the sorrowful end with the thought that this end too will come to an end and therefore can be overcome. But this is a self-deceit, dear friends. This is the worst self-deceit of all. Because this present existence is not your entire life. It is a part of your life ahead of you and of the past incarnations that you have already lived. I know the answer of many scientists. Some say, to compensate us for the comfortless materialism, we can put the accent of life or on the life of the species. Nature then is pointed on nature, not to care for the individual, but for the species alone. And so when we make continual progress, mankind can approach a state that may be thought to develop at last into a golden age. So some of them teach that, and I understand that. But, dear friends, on Earth there will be a time very soon, by the way, all 25,000 years approximately, by the decline of the isothermal line from the poles toward the equator. You know, the Earth will tilt its axis and will become uninhabitable for most beings. And then we teach in about 2 billion years from now, billion years from now, the earth will dissolve and fall into the sun. And fall into the sun. So even if you could reach a golden age, you have no air. H-E-I-R, I mean. So therefore, all things must come to an end. And the problem is that they rise again. And again, they are born, they live and die. They're born and live and die. Entire solar systems, oh yes, no problem. The Book of Light describes it in detail. In detail. But I tell you, impermanent are all the compounds of existence. Painful are all the compounds of existence. This is what I tell you. Where is the end of pain? By detaching your desire from these transient compounds of existence. That you do through the teaching and in daily meditation. Don't forget the rounds of rebirth, samsara. Everything falls always from timelessness into time. So your true state of being is timelessness without duration. Something that has a beginning must have an end. There is no eternal duration. It is also explained in the Book of Light. If you translate the Bible correctly, it doesn't say, in the beginning God created. It says, out of the ever to be unknown, emanate the powers anew. But this will be, we'll talk about another time, about these Kabbalistic occult meaning of Hebrew language and of Masoretic points. After death, Book of Light teaches, bad people go to astral planes without the physical body, they suffer. Good people go in their astral body too, which has high vibration, into highest heaven realms, both transient. Both transient. So somebody acts, conducts himself, follows a course, and when his body breaks up at death, he descends upon a sorry journey. He will come to the hell world. And others will go to a heaven world. As man sows, he shall reap life after life. This teaching was in the Bible and later removed. Because the church wanted to say, you need us. Plus they want to say, you want eternal life, it's in heaven. None of it is true. None of it is true. So how a person acts, conducts himself, follows a course, in that realm after death he is waking up and then outliving a karma there. Now I give you just a hint. Some evil satanic person are leading our world right now. They're so happy and this and this and that. Yeah. But the more they come to death or to near the end of their life, the more afraid they are, and I know why. When you are in astral realms after death and you are an evil person, your body is ripped apart over and over again by those whom you tortured, and it grows together again. You know what that is? This is like some doctor drills on your tooth without giving you sedation, on the nerve, for hours and days. And yet such a pain is not to be compared to the power of a pain in hell. You better turn around, study the Book of Light, let go of all your evil behavior. Well, see, dear friends, the Book of Light is the book of consequences. And I wish, I said that in one of my lectures, that many evil people would read the Book of Light to then abstain from their evil deeds, because they will know what awaits them. And there's always time to turn around. See, Angulimala was a man, a murderer, a mass murderer. He has killed villages, including the people, the animals, kings, slaves. He killed thousands of people. He came to the Buddha and said, Buddha, can you save me? And the Buddha said, of course. Sit down, close your eyes and observe. And this man reached in this life nirvana. He became holy and he was not anymore subject to his karma, to his evil karma. Why? Because you see, now you understand why in India, when they sentenced somebody to death, they said either to death or you leave us, you go into the forest, you must detach from the world, and if you don't do it, we look at that, we kill you. It's not very understandable for most people here. But one day this Angulimala, who has killed so many, came back from his begging tour. He was a monk. He was covered with blood. His skull was almost open. Some bones were broken. And he looked at the Buddha, and the Buddha said, suffer, saint! Suffer, because what you can outlive the karma in this life will not bother you anymore. You go to nirvana. Glory, 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 glory to the Book of Light, dear friends. So I say to those Satanists in the Vatican and to the politicians who sacrifice babies and children and what we hear for horrible things, read the Book of Light, turn around, become a saint. But those people, most people don't listen. They prefer to suffer, to continue suffering. Okay. Now every being wanders eternally in that manner and matter, to and fro, within the spiral of rebirth, samsara, through the 5 realms, reborn by incessant change of the 5 groups constituting personality, always over and over and over again, dear friends. Oh my God. And we will talk about that cycle also of reincarnation by becoming mineral, plant, animal, man another time. Now I want to just a bit focus on the suffering aspect. Yeah? On the suffering aspect. During a long time, you, dear friends, have experienced suffering. And this planet is nothing but a graveyard, a cosmic graveyard filled with the skeletons of corpses. Of corpses. That is the truth. How many times more you want to experience the death of the mother, the father, the son, the daughter, the brother, the sister? How much more and longer you want to be oppressed by sickness, by the death of the mother, the father, the death of the son, the daughter, the brother, the sister, the loss of wealth, the pain of sickness, when you were united to the disliked, separated from the liked, running from birth to death, from death to birth. Do you know how much tears, how many tears you have shed on this long way? I tell you, more than water is contained within the 4 oceans. I'll tell you something else. More, or what do you think is more? The blood that you have shed on these long ways running from new birth, death, or so forth, just by flowing from your decapitation, or the water of the 4 great oceans? Of course, the water of the 4 great oceans. You shed blood, sentenced to death as a murderer, executed, then there is water contained within the 4 great oceans. Don't judge when you see somebody, aha, yeah, he has killed somebody, he belongs on the chair and so forth. You wouldn't be in this world, in this realm, if you wouldn't have done the same. Think about that before you judge. You have shed long time blood, sentenced to death as a murderer. I tell you that. Is that the abundance of suffering lying behind you? No, 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 no. And let's take the reincarnations as animals. How many times as cows and calves have you shed more blood by being decapitated, and there's water contained within the 4 great oceans? As buffalo calves shed more blood. Sheep, lambs. Do you know that the Book of Light teaches that all animals derived from man? I will have a separate lecture on that. When you eat animal, you eat your, could say you eat your own children. Okay. Now, as swine and pigs and deers and stags, you've shed more blood being decapitated. Because without beginning or end is the round of rebirth. You cannot measure it in time because you always fall from timelessness, out of timelessness, into time. What is time difference? It is the awareness of transiency, of transitoriness. Nothing else is time. And when you withdraw into the source, there is no time. True immortality is timelessness. Who can fathom it may fathom it. Pain and suffering. Do you suffer? Oh, I'm happy. I have a wife, a family, we have a young baby, everything is fine. If somebody comes now and decapitates your baby, would you be unhappy? Excuse me when I'm so extreme. Or if your wife crosses the street with the baby and the car comes and kills both of them. What I mean is that this kind of happiness that you are referring to is very fragile. It contains in itself the seed of suffering. Who can fathom it may fathom it. Is there a existence that is not threatened by suffering, or that does not have the potential of suffering? Yes, nirvana. The end of suffering. Sanya Vedayita Nirodho. We will come to that. So the nature of your existence before and after birth is such that you are constantly confronted with transiency. This is the point. And we would have to go deeper into that because right now, there may be already some of you who began this lecture, listening to the lecture, and answering to my question when I asked you, do you suffer? By saying, oh no, not me. Maybe right now they rethink their statements and listen more carefully. To the rest of you who are very, very, very upset maybe, don't continue listening to it. That's not for you. It is not for you. But it will be for you. Sooner or later. I assure you. The Book of Light teaches. After death, there is existence. This existence is affected by rebirth. You could also say by palingenesis. This existence takes place within the 5 realms. And the first statement, most people accept. When I remember Spinoza well, he said, we feel by immediate consciousness that we are immortal. Immortal. That's true. When I think of Sandaka, there was a Hindu teacher. He said, he denied that. He said, there's only one life, one life. There's neither the fruit nor result of good or evil. There's no such thing as this world or the next. When somebody dies, the earthy in him returns, relapses to the earth, the fluid to the water, the heat to the fire, the windy to the air, and the senses pass into space. So, and that's all. Now, to this I say, and this man was a running around in yellow monk dress. So, if that is so, why are you living like a saint? Live as you want. If after death it's over, it's over. It's over. What do you care? Why use discipline? Tell us why. For what? You can be what you want, right? If we would not possess the longing, I say, of immortality for something that cannot be taken away from us. You yourself cannot be taken away. That's right. The hand cannot throw it away itself. But everything to which you cling, that can be taken and will be taken away from you. Dear friends, there is a happiness beyond the pleasure of the senses, I assure you. But for that, in order to experience that, you would have to be willing to detach from the pleasure of the senses. So, there you go. There you go. If you are ready to do that, if you're strong enough, good. Of course, then, if somebody is interested, and most of you may not be there anymore because of that kind of lecture, but if somebody is interested, he may ask, of what kind is a continued existence after death? So now we could listen to the Christians. They say there is an immortality in an eternal heaven or in an eternal hell. Then we have the doctrine of reincarnation. Let's see which makes more sense. An all-knowing God, who knows also the future, would create beings to whom he knows that they are condemned to eternal hell? Are you insane to insult God in such a manner? Where is the truth, dear friends? Let's always be reasonable, common sense. Do some of these teach personal continuance and some teach personal duration? None of it is really true because the monad derives from the source. Beyond the world of existence, teaches the Book of Light. The body perishes, obviously, in death, unless you know somebody who's immortal, good, in his body. Even a master, even Kotomi Nalzil, even the Chauhan who dictated the Book of Light to me, sorry for my horrible English, oh God. He called me a fool many times. Let's take a master. He can contain a body for 500 years, 1,000 years, 1,500 years, but then it's over, it's over. He has to look for a new body, either by entering a impregnated womb, fructified womb, or by Kriya Shakti. Talk about another time about that. So the body perishes at death. And the component that is correctly, as said, return to the common stock of inorganic substances, of external nature. Dear friends, when you are aware of something arising and passing away, you cannot be that, because otherwise you wouldn't experience the arising and passing away. If a car passes you by from right to left and disappears, you cannot be the car, otherwise you would disappear with the car. Just one example for it. Yeah? So if you are aware of the arising and passing away, you cannot be that of which you are aware. You're just aware of it. You may identify yourself with it. Yes, you may cling to it. Oh, maybe not so much anymore after this lecture. There is, of course, the Christian doctrine of personal survival after death, in eternal heaven, eternal hell, presupposing the belief in a personal God, and we spoke about that. You know, this is not possible. An all-knowing God cannot intentionally create this insane world ruled by insane people. It's not possible, not possible. Knowing how it would turn out to be. No. So therefore remains for us, from the Book of Light, reincarnation. That is the only possible form of existence after death. Call it also palingenesis. Now, then we can say, what happens? The being itself sheds off the forms over and over again, and driven by desire or trishna attains new forms. To be continued. So you are what you wanted to be. Some may object, I didn't want to be in this surrounding or in this horrible situation, etc., etc. You may not have wanted it, but you caused it by your actions. And this is how you learn to act correctly so that you don't cause such things. This is the school of karma and reincarnation. Oh my God, dear friends, this, you see, when I ask, are you suffering? I want to lead you to a new form of happiness beyond the pleasure of the senses. In order to get that, you would have to give up the pleasure of the senses or to modify it. See, if somebody says, okay, I give something up, but what do I get for it? Otherwise, it makes no sense to give something up, right? Must all make sense. When you detach from the pleasure of the senses, you will experience the pleasure beyond the pleasure of the senses. The pleasure beyond sense pleasure. So, good. And therefore, for us, karma and reincarnation makes more sense. It's explained in the Book of Light in thousands of pages, and also in a little book called Divine Message from the True God Nirvana. It's a little book. You get it on Amazon, everywhere. By Divine Message from the True God Nirvana, I don't mean a creator God. Such God does not exist. I mean the highest principle. And so we teach in the Book of Light the continuance after death. That stands in no contradiction to any other fact of the course of nature. That makes sense. Of course, we can talk as long as the day lasts. Where's the evidence? First, you have to study the teaching. Secondly, you can test it in meditation. You will get in contact with the highest heavens and below and beyond, if you follow the teaching. And there you have empirical truth evident. And of course, after death, and for that we would have to study the Book of Light, what happens after death? Why do I come back? What is that desire, Trishna? After death, most beings are still fulfilled with the desire for death, for life. Well, those who kill themselves, suicide for death. But that's no solution, as we will see. So, that desire for life is contained in skandhas, so-called permanent atoms in essence. These atoms regroup themselves around the new fructified womb, and the being is drawn again into life, seeing through eyes, talking through mouths, hearing through ears, smelling through nose, thinking through brain, touching through touch organs, and so forth and so on. You can escape such a dreadful existence over and over and over again, being born, live, and die, or, which teaches the Book of Light, over and over dying. There is no life. There's only death and dying. Birth is the beginning of the death process, and death its end. Birth is the beginning of a dying process, and death is its end. Very few people want to understand this, and once they understand, become afraid. But we show them the way out of that. See, life is the forbidden fruit in the Bible. That is the true meaning. If you want life, you get as consequence death. You can compare that to a beautiful drink and you're very thirsty. And you taste a little bit of that drink, even first with your finger. That is beautiful. And it was hot outside, and now there are some ice cubes in it. And I drink it, and it tastes so beautiful. Unfortunately, you didn't know that they put some poison in it that only works after an hour. So that drink was poisoned. And after an hour, you lay on earth and you say, oh, it hurts, and under pain you die. This is life. Life is a poisoned food. It's the forbidden fruit in the Bible. And if you read the Book of Light, you will understand the true meaning of the Bible and of the Quran. Dear Muslims, did you know that the Quran teaches reincarnation? No, you didn't. But it's true. It's true. Glory to the Book of Light. Do you suffer? And I don't want to provoke you with that question. I want to, maybe it's possible for me to, so that you answer honestly. And you ask yourself, do I suffer? Could it be that I suffer? Could it be that he is right, or that I should answer the question with yes? Because I will not let you hang in there suffering. That's nonsense, you know. But I'll show you the way out of suffering. Now, every person that is newborn, every baby and so forth, is not the result of its parents. Now, we have to go deeper into that. The child is not the product of its parents. The child is the product of his own action from past life. And the parents supply the possibility to outlive the karma and learn by that. I don't know if I told you already the story when I was in LA. And people came to me, parents with a handicapped child. But the child was mentally handicapped, but he could think and speak and talk, but just handicapped, you know. And his greatest handicap was 13 years old, to accuse his parents of his existence. And the parents came to me and said, our boy here says he is mentally handicapped and also physically somehow. Because of us. It's our fault. And we agree. It must be like that. It must be our fault, no? We gave birth to him. And I took the boy. I said, come here, boy. I said, you should kneel down in front of your parents and kiss their feet. And thank them for the possibility, the opportunity they gave you to outlive your karma and learn through that. Do you understand me? He said, no. I said, that's clear. That's why we'll talk about it. Then I spent the next hour talking with them about karma and reincarnation. And that whatever you do returns to you. And that he had to be born through these parents because the vibrations of his activities in past life, mental, emotional, and so forth, were, how could you say, the same vibration than the one of the parents. And so he had to be born through them, and not, you cannot be, I give an example. You cannot be a murderer and a porn star in one life and then born a holy saint in another one. It's not possible. Although there are possibilities that not everybody is always evil. Some people have maybe 20 years of good life and they do good things, and then they are tempted by something and then they become monsters. So the first half of the life must be outlived in some heavenly realms, but the second in some hell realms. See, this is pure mathematics. I gave them the Book of Light and I said, read this. And I said to him, worship your parents. Say thank you to them every day. and prevent a new incarnation like this. They were happy, they were crying and this, and that's emotional, of course. They came into the temple and they listened to the lectures and they understood. And they did not suffer any longer. You want to escape suffering? Then try to overcome at once or step by step your passions and your desires. Most people are slaves, are addicted either to sex, to food, this, that, and drugs. And first, it's quite enjoyable. But then comes a point where they cross a line, and then it becomes pain and suffering. And then to return to a state, what they call normality, when you are already so deep sunken in the passion and desire, it's not easy. It's not easy. They call it rehab. And some of these people kill themselves and think, ah, it's over now. That's what you think. The skandhas, or permanent atoms, may regroup around a person that has the same vibration. Example, there are babies known or born heroin addicted. Babies already heroin addicted. Why? Their mothers take heroin. Now, could the baby already come later and say, it's my mother's fault? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's the result of your actions in past life that you are born through such a mother. And again, you should worship her. How can you do that, dear friends? How can you understand 1 inch of suffering in the world without the teaching of the Book of Light, I ask you? So you suffer. Admit it. Don't lie to yourself. Come. Are there amongst you some who had everything in life like me? Women, money, fame, fortune, everything. And still, I'm #1 in Germany in the discotheque charts. And in Austria, I'm 73. You think I'm happy because of that? No. I'm not stupid. And when you suffer, I will end your suffering if you listen to me. If you listen to me, then I will end your suffering. And then you will understand that you alone, guided by the Book of Light, that you will find here at no expense 5,500 pages of truth, uniting or union of all religions in the world, dictated to me by the Maha Chohan. Then you will be ready to let go of that of which you thought it would make you happy. And I mean, let go of eye, ear, nose, mouth, of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, of spirit, even of spirit. Listen, I'm not here to entertain you with some stuff. This is radical. This is more radical than any radical thing you have ever heard. Justice without violence. That's all. So most of you will not be ready for what I'm saying. See, this is why my lectures are very long. So I hope that most people who are not ready for it just switch and say, come on, let him talk. That's right, what I want. This is not for everybody. And this is much too early, but the Chohan told me, so I do it. I do it. Oh my God, it's about suffering. And most people enjoy something and don't even know that they enjoy suffering. Because they don't know the basic truth of that which makes them happy. That is the point. That is the error. That is the misunderstanding. They think it makes them happy like a tasty drink in a hot day, on a hot day. Oh, it tastes wonderful. After an hour, he collapses and dies. Why? Because it was poisoned, the drink. Life is a poisoned drink, dear friends. Life is a poisoned drink. And this is why there is no life. There's only death. There's only dying. Birth is the beginning of the death process. Death is its end. So, you are not here by any law of evolution, born onward, upward, to, and here and there. No, 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 no. You're here because of your ignorance. Ignorance, not, I don't mean that insulting or insulted, but ignorance about the suffering aspect of life and how to detach from it. Jakob Böhme once said, if all the mountains were books, and all the lakes ink, and all the trees pens, still they would not suffice to depict all the misery. To depict all the misery. All men of sanctity who have a glimpse into the abysses, all wise men, they see that life is suffering. Whenever or whatever you are attached to in life is the cause of suffering. Believe me, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it is hate or love. The truth is even beyond hate or love. Because love and hate are just two sides of a coin. Think about that. Think about that. There are two states of attachment that bring you back either in one position or the other, which is always, and be it in the highest heavens of religion, transient. So, dear friends, dear Muslims, dear Christians, heaven is not eternal. No, 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 no. What has a beginning must have an end. Think about that, okay? And heaven had a beginning at the reawakening of the universe. And of course, there's no Big Bang, but there is a reawakening, if you call that a Big Bang. If you call a Big Bang that you wake up in the morning and before you went to sleep at night, be it a Big Bang. This is radical. This is you want something radical? In Silicon Valley, and more computer programmers, they are interested in a teaching of detachment from that world to which they are attached. Can you imagine that? Heidegger, great philosopher. Now the time is right for the book of light, book of books, and savior of mankind, and its branch scriptures. Now, let's take, for example, divine message from the true God, Nirvana. And I don't mean a creator God by that. I mean the highest principle, the source. Read this little book. And if you're ready for the truth, then read the Book of Light. 5,500 pages of truth. You have the link here on that page. If our stay in the world is of that sort, then we should only see suffering for immeasurable time. You see, dear friends, I want to tell you something, because you have thought or desired all the time such this transient life. It is difficult for most of you to rethink, to change your thinking. Because you have been programmed for about 150 billion years in one direction, into material world. Book of Light shows you how to return to material world if you want that, if you want to suffer again, be it on the highest level, or not to return. To remain where you came from, which is where you belong. The whole world, I remember the words of the Chauhan, the whole world is devoured by flames. The whole world is enshrouded in smoke. The whole world is on fire. The whole world is trembling. And this is why you suffer. You suffer because you are attached to your personality. You identify yourself with body, emotion, mind, soul, and spirit. That's the case of suffering. Where, if somebody is detached from all of that, except from the spirit, where does he suffer then? Where does somebody suffer, I ask you now, who has detached from everything except the spirit? Well, he suffers in heaven world. Why? Heaven is beautiful. Oh, yes, it is. Compared to a physical orgasm, a heaven world, how can I say that correctly? A physical orgasm is nothing compared to the happiness and the bliss of the heaven world. That's where the Brahman and the Krishna people like to remain there. But this heavenly world has one little problem. It is impermanent. It is transient. This is the radical teaching, dear Muslims, dear Christians. Your heavens are not eternal. And if you read the Book of Light, it will explain to you Quran and Bible, and it will explain to you the correct translations and interpretations, and you will see that the Bible and the Quran have the heavens will be rolled up like a scroll and will be drawn. Where? Into where they came from. And that's where the truth is. In order to become the truth, you will have to detach from everything that you are not. What are you not? Everything that you are aware of rising and passing away. I mean, how much shorter and more correct and to the point you want it. And so, let's listen how we may escape this world of suffering forever. How we may rest in the source. That source is beyond time, it's timeless. Over and over and over again, the entire universe with everything in it falls from the timelessness into time. This is the process where science is looking for out there, anywhere for the source of the universe out there. Are you crazy? Well, you must pay your rent, you must feed your families. I understand that. But you are as crazy or stupid, when I say it friendly, like somebody who dives into water and looks for dryness in the water and says, I don't find it here, I have to dive deeper. Yeah, sure, dive deeper. Dear scientist, dear seeker of the truth, if you are, if you're not, are only part of this lying and fraudulent society. The source of everything, is in you, nowhere out there. In meditation, you shall experience the source. And it is beyond the abolition it is the abolition of perception and sensation. Then one comes and says, how can there be highest happiness if there is no sensation? That is the highest happiness. The detachment from everything. And great philosophers killed themselves because they saw the dissatisfying aspect of their philosophy. They saw how they didn't get really to the point. They still scraped the surface. Glory to the Book of Light. Glory, glory, glory. It enables you to return or not to return. That choice has to be yours. I am talking here, dear friends, about the subject of suffering. You say, I am. What do you mean by that? You say it, everybody says it. It is a cause of sort of an axiom, evident in itself, without any proof. Because whatever I want to prove, that I wants to prove. And to prove for myself. This is more certain than all perception. It is the most reliable criterion of truth we have. Because every perception is affected through me. This is not for everybody. And I'm sure that if anyone is still listening now, then he or she is ready for the truth. Yes? Some people debate about am I not, to be or not to be. Let's look at that first. Why do they ask if they are or if they are not in theoretical discussions? You can prove irrefutably that I is indeed nothing but a mere thought for which no substantial equivalent can be found. I may prove whatever I like. The reality of myself cannot be affected thereby. I will pass over all these proofs with a smile, even if I acknowledge their validity. Because I cannot argue away my own existence. Even if I need or use the help of the deepest going analysis. And if there's somebody try to prove to me that I really am nothing, then I should answer, well, if I thought it worthwhile to answer at all. I would say, my dear friend, if I do not exist, why do you trouble yourself to prove to me that I don't? In all your arguments, you always presuppose me as the person to whom you address them. In the same way that you presuppose yourself in setting these arguments forth. How would you be able to undertake to prove that we do not exist? Because there are people that say, we don't exist. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Well, even if you are a transient illusion, what the Book of Light teaches, as an illusion, you exist. Take a needle and stuck it a little bit in your behind, and you will see that you exist. It's really ridiculous to raise the question at all as to whether I am or not. Am I not? Yeah, well, this is discussed in many philosophical debates. It does not in truth cast any doubt upon the actuality of myself. It seeks to express, perhaps, I may not be what I think myself to be. That's something else. That even the predicate am may not be applicable to my essence. Oh, you say you are a man, you are a woman, really? You better define from now on what you are not, rather than to say I'm this or that, because if you say I am a man, then you point at something that is transient, that is subject to decay. You are that? Then you are lost in the illusion and you will die with it, and you will suffer and you will reincarnate driven by lust for a new existence. But let us stay a little bit with those people who always ask, am I not? I may not be what I think myself to be. Then I'm not what up to now I thought myself to be. Okay. Perhaps I'm something that neither you nor anybody else is able to find out. But in spite of all, I am. Well, in that case, I'm something inscrutable. When you detach from everything that you are not in meditation, you will find the truth. This is what Jesus meant when he said, the truth shall set you free. He meant nirvana. He said, you have something where you can lay your head down here on earth. I have nothing where I can lay my head down, he said. That leads us to the question of the first cause. Such a first cause does not exist. There is no extra-cosmic creator, and I'm no atheist. So let's, in order that you can continue and that I can help to prevent your further suffering, let us take a good look at, if you ask the right question, then you will find the truth. What is the right question? The right question is not who am I? The right question is who am I essentially not? That which I am aware of as arising and passing away, I can not essentially be, otherwise I would not experience the change. To the extent that you identify yourself with that which is arising and passing away, you suffer. And this is why I will help you here to end your suffering. You cannot find yourself by cognition, by being aware of something, because everything that you are aware of as arising and passing away, you are not. All you can do is to detach from that in meditation and by the teaching. And then you will return to the source whence you once left. Three things are there: the source, all beings, and root matter, Mula Prakriti. They are timeless, eternal. They interact periodically. The monads, we call them monads, the beings, dare to fall into material world, into Mula Prakriti. And thus they cause the forms, the different forms, mineral, plant, animal, man, angels, gods. Yes, there are gods. There's even the highest first appearing, we call it a supermonad, that dives into material world and parts it into levels so that the beings that come now, enter now in material world, can continue their journey of karma and reincarnation. You have two choices: to avoid a return, or to come back as, how should I say it, painless as possible. There will still be a little pain because you will experience birth, old age, and death, but maybe in a right, detached way from now on. Dear scientists, don't ask what is the world, because what did you get as a result of your foolish search? You poison this planet, you enslave yourself first to satanic forces in order to enslave others. You poison the atmosphere with your rockets and all this nonsense that you create, with food that we don't need, with vaccinations, with a money system that is interest loaded, invented by the Soros and other Satanists, Bilderbergers and so forth. Book of Light teaches about that. In the Book of Light you find also the protocols. Yes, yes. So, dear friends, dear scientists, don't ask what is the world, ask what am I? Or rather ask what am I not? And if you want to find the origin of the world, it's nowhere out there. It's right in you. And you don't dare to meditate. You don't dare to deal with this Book of Light, because it would mean you would have to rewrite most of your books in schools and universities. Glory to the Book of Light, dear friends. Everybody is looking for the primal source. Everybody wants to know, where do I come from? Why am I here? Thirst for life brought you here, so that you understand you don't belong here. Because whatever you want to achieve, and whatever you achieve, is basically worthless, because it is transient and it will be taken away from you again. When we read the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, we read, through what do we exist? And upon what are we founded? Governed by whom? Ye wise ones, do we move? Within the changing states of pain and pleasure. Can time, nature, necessity, or chance, primordial matter, mind, or a combination of these be thought of as the primal cause? Never. For the self there exists. And you see, my friends, when you look for the self, that's the wrong way. By cognition, you are only aware of whatever the self is not, when it is arising and passing away. So, if you want to find truth, you would have to detach step by step, not by suicide, in meditation through the teaching, from everything that you are aware of as transient. You do that by being aware of it, and by just looking at it. And when you close your eyes in meditation and you are undisturbed, maybe half an hour, you don't see, hear, feel, taste, touch, and even think. You do not think. It's not possible. Most of people say it's not possible. I may not be all the other things, but my thoughts, oh, I am my thoughts. And most people will tell you, I can't even sleep sometimes because the thoughts are still working, the brain is still working, so I am the thoughts. Really. You will discover in meditation that you detach from thinking and you're still there. If you would be your thoughts, you would lose consciousness, you would be dead or whatever, unconscious. And then find your consciousness only again when you think, but it's not so. Cogito ergo sum, says Descartes, great philosopher. I think, therefore I am. I say, you may even not think, and still you are. Still you are. The Book of Light teaches that all the principles that you could name or are aware of as arising and passing away cannot be thought as existing for themselves alone, but only as determinants of the self, Atman, which therefore, when everything is taken into account, is the first cause. Just what do they mean by Atman? Do they mean the monad, the first emanation? Once in manifestation, once the being has left the source? That's not the source, it's a being having left the source. When I leave a room, is the room still there? And I return to the room and the room is still there. So there we have now, I'm not that room. I may be in that room and then I leave it and return. This is the primal source. And it too is anatta. Who can fathom it may fathom it. We will come to that. You can only be aware of the truth of my words when you meditate each day, and by detaching more and more, you will see you don't disappear, you're still there. What is nirvana? When the entire world disappears for you, when you disappear for the entire world, but you don't disappear for yourself. Solve the riddle. Solve the riddle. Glory to the Book of Light, dear friends, that helps us in that detachment process. The I, whatever it may be, is a fundamental fact, and everyone is confronted with it. Now, there may be a fundamental question of our philosophy, what is the world? But we say, rather ask, what am I? And I mentioned it already quite intense to you scientists. Throw your instruments away and meditate. And then, if the question may arise, what am I? You have to get a clear idea as to this question, at least insofar as you could state it with certainty. Is the necessity of suffering grounded in our own essence? In our own essence, suffering thus being merely an emanation of the same? Or is it something that reaches us only as an alien element? If suffering would be our true nature, we would not suffer. We would say, well, I suffer, that's it. But something deep in us says we can escape that suffering. These lectures help you. To escape the suffering and to avoid reincarnation, or to reincarnate and be born as sufferless as possible, as painless as possible. Of course, you will, even in the highest heaven, be confronted with what? With transitoriness. Even the heavens are transitory. Sorry to tell you, dear Christians and Muslims. And then when you discover that you suffer because of this and that, because of your body, because of your eyes, your ear, your nose, your tongue, your thinking, can you then say, finally I found myself? I repeat the question. Is the necessity of suffering grounded in our own essence, suffering thus being merely an emanation of the same? Or is it something that reaches us only as an alien element? In the latter case, there is a possibility of freeing ourselves from it. In the former case, no. Every effort to escape must be in vain from the very outset. From my own essence, which just means from myself, I can as little flee as the hand can throw itself away. I can only flee and overcome something that I am essentially not. In the light of this truth, I can assure you that you can overcome your suffering by understanding what suffers. The part of you that clings to that which changes. In a world where mostly also young people are tempted by sex objects, by bodies, by bodily forms, and so forth, this is quite a truth that should be considered and should be meditated upon. So suffering has to do with clinging. Clinging to something that for a while belongs to you and may cause you some pleasure, no doubt. Otherwise you wouldn't cling to it. But then, and according to the intensity of your clinging, you will suffer when that to which you cling is taken away from you, latest in death. Latest in death. So you cannot say in the light of this truth that whatever you are aware of as arising and passing away, or as being transient, or being aware of its transitoriness, you cannot say, this is mine, this am I. You may say, I cling to that, no problem. You may say, I wear that coat, but I'm not the coat. You see that we have to draw, if we want to end suffering, a separating line between atta and anatta, between self and non-self. In that case, non-self means that which you are essentially not. You're not the body. You're not your personality. You're not your eyes. You're not your nose. I don't care how much you enjoy it. You are not your thoughts. You can use your brain, but you're not your brain. Before you reach nirvana, you must even detach from thinking. This you can practice and experience during meditation. You detach from thinking and you're not gone, you're still there, you're still there. Thus you reach step by step true immortality, dear friends. We fall over and over again, driven by desire, from timelessness out into time, from timelessness out into time. Time can only be experienced by the awareness of transitoriness. Then we say time. We look around us, things change, we and our own body too. So we divide it into seconds, hours, days, months, years, and whatever, eons, like in the Bible, which led to the misunderstanding of the Bible, where it says you will have eternal life in heaven. No way. I almost would have said, no way, Jose. You have no eternal life in heaven. The Bible doesn't teach that, neither does the Quran. The correct Greek original Bible says you will live for an aeon in heaven. Aionias, an aeon. That, the correct translation of the Greek aionias or aeon is a very long time, not eternity. What has a beginning must have an end. Are you ready for that truth? You see, this will be a very long lecture because you must not listen to it in one, you can listen to it in parts, half an hour, or maybe all of it. If you're ready for that lecture, if you hang in there, if you understand what I say, then you are ready for immortality. I teach here true immortality detached from everything that is mortal. This is how you attain true immortality. By analyzing what is mortal and by not being attached to it anymore. And you cannot reach that state by suicide. No way, because most people who commit suicide, they do that just for the reason that they could not get what they so desperately wanted. Be it love, be it this, be it that. So they kill themselves, but actually they don't kill themselves because the desire remains in what we call skandhas, permanent atoms. And that these permanent atoms, these skandhas containing that desire, group around a new fructified womb, and the being is drawn again into new incarnation. Who can fathom it may fathom it, dear friends. And I can only give you food for thought. In order to understand what I mean, you would have to study the Book of Light. The Book of Light. Book of Books, Savior of Mankind. You can download it here. And this book was dictated to me by the Maha Chohan. It unites all religions in the world. It explains suffering. And it explains how you can get totally rid of suffering, or if you can return into a suffering world because it's transient, but at as little painful as possible. Let me put it this way. You see, there's a nice story about the Buddha. There were Brahmin youths who went to the Buddha and said, some woman stole our money. Did you see her? We want to find her. Where is this runaway woman? And Buddha said to them, which is of greater importance, O youths, to search for this woman or to search for your eye? To search for your eye. Eye, not the eye, but the eye in the face, but the eye. Okay. Or yourself, you know. And the youth dropped everything and followed the Buddha. And followed the Buddha. Be ready at least as once a day to drop everything. How do you do that? In soul breath meditation. Begin with a little book called Divine Message from the True God Nirvana. You find it on Amazon. When you begin with that, then you can jump to the Book of Light. It's a little book in German and English. It'll help you to study in a detached state of being. And I mentioned already that a drawing of the boundary line between I and not I, to make a cut that divides in the proper place, And the Book of Light draws this dividing light or line between Atta, the self in that case here now, and Anatta, not the self. Between self and non-self, between I and non-I. Very exact. And let us go into this experience and experiment of drawing that line. In order to do so, we should first discuss the criterion according to the Book of Light, which distinguishes between Atta and Anatta. You may say, well, yeah, I know already everything that arises and passes away is not the self. And so, listen, you have been directed for over 150 billion years into understanding the transient world, and you created a greater and greater distance between your true self and that which you are not. Just because you read or hear something now, you may think you understand it immediately. Repetition is the best teacher. Because if you not over and over and over and over and over and over again listen to these lectures, you will fall again into old behavior. Who can fathom it may fathom it, dear friends. So, the criterion in correspondence with the tremendous importance of the question must be put beyond all doubt so that you can relate on it. Book of Light does not leave you in the dark as to this criterion. Does not leave you in the dark. It teaches. The I in your head is the self. Such a statement is inadmissible. Inadmissible. Why? Because you perceive the originating and perishing of that organ of view, the I. But if you perceive originating and perishing, then the result would follow logically. Myself is originating and perishing. You cannot say that. So therefore, it is inadmissible to assert your I, your organ of vision, to be the self. So consequently, the I is not the self. This is a criterion for determining the boundary between self and non-self. Whatever you perceive originating and perishing cannot be yourself. See, the clearness of such formula is so very important, so that you can be able to understand. You remember the movie of Jack Nicholson? He starred in that movie, A Few Good Men. It was about a court-martial of 2 US Marines. They were charged with the murder of a fellow Marine and the tribulations of their lawyers and so forth. And Nicholson said, you can't handle the truth. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. And I ask you now, can you handle the truth? Can you handle the truth that you are none of that with which you until now identified yourself with? Can you handle the truth? Then continue listening. Because you're on the right path, my friend. You're on the right path. This will be possible. This will be possible with the help of meditation. I repeat, because repetition is the best teacher. What you perceive as originating and perishing, that means your entire personality, by the way. Be you a man or a woman or a transsexual, doesn't matter. You cannot assume that to be yourself. This is a formula that is quite clear. But to many people it is not clear, despite its extraordinary simplicity. People are not able to penetrate in all its depth and inner obviousness. Please note one very important thing. I don't say what originates and perishes is not yourself. I don't say that, because one may dispute this sentence. Might not be clear at once. Why not have even something transient? May not constitute my essence. I could say that. I could say, well, I am the transient. You could say that, right? Dear friends, this is serious and goes very deep. I would not waste my time and your time if that would be of not so great importance to me, and I hope to you too. Because you may end your search looking outside and you may go inside. I don't say what originates and perishes is not myself. I don't say that per se. Because you could be that. One could say, I am that which perishes and arises and perishes away. Arises and passes away. I am that, okay. What the Book of Light teaches it is what you perceive originating and perishing. That cannot be you or yourself. What you perceive originating, are you aware of the difference? I don't think you can doubt that statement. Because what you perceive to originate and perish away, with a logical consequence, must be something different from you, right? Am I going too deep into you and into myself? Is this dangerous? Something may revolt, rebel in you against these words. This something is not yourself. It is that which for the first time maybe in your life doubt to be yourself. It is the dweller of the threshold. Be aware of that. It will not be easy. This new way of thinking may cause rebellion in you by something that is not you, and by something that with which you have identified yourself until today. The dweller of the threshold. The fight begins. You think, listen, I am, or I was a karate teacher. I was trainer of the army in Germany and so forth and so on. I knocked out more men than you can put in a small church, believe me. And I was knocked out more times than you can imagine. All these battles in the street, with knife, without knife, this and that, are nothing compared to the battle, to the fight, to the combat that you are confronted now with. By the way, if you want to find out something about myself and my combat techniques, you can go on YouTube, Christian Anders Karate or Christian Anders Bruce Lee or whatever. Good. But this is nothing. It's peanuts. It's peanuts compared to the battle, to the combat, to the fight that is awaiting you against your non-self, against that which you are not, to which you were clinging so many lives. Identifying yourself with man, or woman, or this or that, mineral, plant, animal, man, angel, God, and all that you're not. Are you aware of the confrontation? Is in you already a rebellion against my words? That is the dweller of the threshold. But we are not afraid, aren't we? So then, what you perceive originating and perishing cannot be you, your real self, the real you. Don't doubt such a statement, because it's logical. Because what you perceive to originate, to perish, must, with logical consequence, be something different from you. Example. If a thing passes before your physical eye, isn't it irrefutably certain that it cannot be identical with your eye? Correct? Listen, in order to be spiritual, you don't have to leave this earth for a second. You don't have to be pseudo-occult and esoteric like so many people here on the internet. You can remain with both feet on earth and can say, if a thing passes before my physical eye, then it is irrefutably certain. It cannot be identical with my eye. And what about my ear? I hear a sound. Listen, I sold 25 million records. I'm #1 in Germany since 50 years. And yet I tell you, so what? You go to Christian Anders Singer, you'll see, on YouTube. I sing German, English, Spanish, Turkish, French. None of that is my true self. I used it. I used the dweller of the threshold, and do you know how difficult it was for me to detach, at least to a certain extent? Do you know that? You want me to describe that? I can't describe you. I can't describe hell at that moment, dear friends, believe me. And we will have to see how that detachment process has to be seen and start. But in order to start the detachment, we must understand from what we detach. Otherwise, we may detach from something we are, which is not possible because the hand cannot throw itself away, right? Good. I was sitting at the deathbed of many people. And I can tell you, some were old, some were young, some were very old. Almost nobody wanted to die. That's how they were clinging to that which I held a mirror in their face and said, you want to cling to that? You desperately you want to continue living? They said, yes. I said, then let go of that which can't live any longer, and you will reincarnate. And some of them died maybe happier than before they heard about that. Now, do I exist? Well, find out. When you detach from everything and you still are, then obviously you exist. How is that? What is that? Stop just debating theoretically about it, but go to work. Meditate yourself free from that which you're not. And you can do that. It's described in Soul Breath Meditation. Read the little book, Divine Message from the True God, Nirvana, in German and English in one book. So, if something passes before your physical eye, then it cannot be identical with your eye. Same with the sound. Sound comes and goes, and you still are there. You wouldn't assert that your ear died with it. No, you wouldn't. You're not a fool. And you cannot be that which you perceive disappear before your physical or spiritual eye even. You may be the perceiving subject. Now we come closer to the thing. Because if you would be identical with the disappearing object, be it a visual object, be it a thought, be it a highest spiritual, emotional thing, then you would disappear along with it. And still you are. You're still there after that is gone. So it was not yourself or you or anything belonging to you, essentially. It was something you clung to it or you cling to it. That's something else. And its disappearance, latest in death, right, causes maybe astonishment and at most surprise and more pain. The pain of death is mathematically equals your attachment to that which has to vanish away. Has to. So your, excuse me my horrible English, I try to translate my German thoughts into English. For it is just through my not-self being involved in this passing away that pain and suffering in consequence of transitoriness alone become possible at all. This suffering consists in the state desired giving place to another state not desired. But that presupposes something, right? Something to exist. That experiences this passing from the state desired into a state not desired. And it does therefore not participate in this incessant change. On the contrary, it feels it as painful. And this something is nothing but just yourself experiencing the pain. With the entire reality of pain. Can you be identical with the cause of your pain? I don't think so. In every change, let me put it this way, something perishes, right? Good. And something new is formed, no doubt. Spring, autumn, summer, winter, and so forth. No? But the something that has perished can impossibly be unhappy because it doesn't exist anymore. And what about the something that has newly arisen? Cannot be unhappy either. Because it did not experience the change, but on the contrary has just only arisen out of it. Not to mention the fact that it ought to feel glad about this change. Because its own existence is due to it, right? We just are logical. So there must be a third something present which feels the change of the painful. This third you are. Can you handle the truth? Can you handle the truth? You want the truth? Can you handle it? Can you handle the truth? Are you ready for it? Are you ready to fight the dweller of threshold? Are you ready to fight that? Or to overcome that? Or to detach from that to which you were clinging billions of years? Are you ready? Are you sure? If you are sure, continue listening. Because this is, and I dare to say, the utmost truth. This saves you from suffering. This saves you, the timeless, eternal being, from suffering through time and its transitory forms up to the higher spirit, because this is the teaching. You're not even your eyes, ear, your smelling, touching, tasting, thinking, your spirit, your body, nothing, nothing. When you detach from everything, you can detach from this and from everything that is transient, transitory. The real you remains. You want to know how it is? The world shall disappear for you, you shall disappear for the world, and you shall not disappear for yourself. Oh, that's very lonely. Then don't do it. I just offer to you the highest state of being, free from suffering. If you think you have an eternal life in heaven, you are wrong. You'll see. So study the Book of Light and you will understand there is no eternal life in heaven. No, no, no way. So repetition, repetition, repetition. What you perceive as originating and perishing away cannot with logical consequence be yourself. It must be different from you. And so forth and so on. Yeah? If you were identical with the thing that you behold perishing, you could not experience pain through this passing away. Because whatever in its own essence is transitory, and everything you see to be transitory is transitory in consequence of its inner nature, cannot experience this transitoriness as painful. Because it's not contrary to its nature, do you understand? It would be the outcome of its innermost essence. Let's take a look at gas. Gas has become free, does not hesitate to expanding wherever it can. Yeah? It endeavors to do so with the utmost violence. That's in accord with its nature. So if you want, determine the boundary between I and not I, between self and non-self. It's evident in itself to wit that I cannot exist in that which because of its transitoriness causes pain to me. Oh, what words. Glory to the Book of Light. You can not exist in that which, because of its transitoriness, causes pain to you. Now I hear many young people, oh, what pain. I'm very happy, and when death comes, it comes. I have been at the deathbeds of many people. Don't get lost in that illusion, dear friend, I tell you. When the angel of death comes, you shall see. And maybe you're wise enough now not to waste your life with the pleasure of the senses, because I promise you something. There is a happiness beyond the pleasure of the senses. Guess what? In order to understand that, because, listen, when somebody comes to you and tells you, detach from that, you may rightfully so ask, what do I get in return for it? Otherwise, you would be stupid to let go of everything and you don't know what you get for it. That's nonsense. And to have a promise of an eternal heaven and so on, they can prove that promise, and they just tell you, that's all nonsense. So, the Book of Light teaches that when you have two choices, you can reincarnate or not. Now, if you don't reincarnate, you will experience happiness beyond the pleasure of the senses. How is that? Meditate. Every day, at least 1 hour. Every day when others have their fun, go somewhere, you meditate. You detach more and more from that with which you identified yourself until now. And you will see what I mean. Immortality is the result. Immortality is the reward. True immortality, beyond time. We always fall from timelessness into time. An immortality that has a beginning and no end, such a thing is impossible. No way, Jose, doesn't work. No matter how many scriptures that have been mistranslated tell you that. It won't work. You may be satisfied with the beautiful, blissful life in heaven, no problem. Especially then you should study the Book of Light, because it brings you out also via meditation into those realms, into those jhanas, as we say. Well, then you may even decide, okay, I like that. There may be nirvana, but I want to stay in blissful heaven. Well, you will be, you will be. And that bliss is not to be compared to any bliss on earth. Any bliss on earth is nothing compared to the bliss in heaven. So maybe you decide to serve for heaven. I just have to point out to you, there is something beyond it. So the ear, now we can conclude, when originating and perishing are perceived, then there would be the result, yourself originates and perishes. That's not possible. And therefore it's not inadmissible to assert thirst to be the self. Consequently, the eye is not the self, the forms are not the self, the eye consciousness is not the self, eye contact is not the self, sensation is not the self, thirst is not the self. You are not even your thirst. You have thirst, yes. You are not your body, you have a body, yes, that's true. You have a soul, yes. You are not that soul, you are not even the soul, dear friends. You are not even the spirit. What the church tells you about soul and spirit are just still much refined sheaths that come when you have to detach from everything else. But they too are perishable. Can you take the truth? Can you handle that truth? The so cherished spirit. In all the scriptures and all the pseudo-esoteric occult scripture, the spirit, the spirit. You're a spiritual being. Well, you are a spiritual being if you define really spirit, what spirit is. Spirit is that which would be detached from everything, even from the spiritual sheath, from the so-called spiritual body. Of course, somebody who experiences the bliss in a heaven world, an heavenly world, with his spiritual body, which is super most refined, he may not be accessible to this teaching. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. You decide if you can handle it or not. So therefore, when we continue, the ear is not the eye, the nose is not the self, the tongue is not the self, the body is not the self, the organ of thought is not the self. You know, it would be inadmissible, a statement to say the ear is the self, the nose is the self, the tongue is the self, the body is the self, the organ of thought is the self. No, it's not. You perceive the originating and perishing of thinking. What about that? Of thinking. In effect, means the organ of thought, because you use the organ of thought to think. Thoughts are material things, dear friends. Because if originating and perishing are perceived, the result would be, again I say, myself originate and perish. This is not the case. What am I when I detach from everything? To saying that you're now. Just that falls off from you and you enter parinirvana, for instance, but we'll come to that. So, as soon as the process of the originating of your personality, at birth for instance, and thereby to you of the entire world, is correctly analyzed, and the single and every single component of this process, as well as this process itself, is examined by what? By the criterion for defining the boundary between the realm of self and non-self. Then it becomes clear that none of what you are aware of arising and passing away belongs to you. Only then may you be ready to detach from it. Think about it. You stand behind the entire process. As the angel of earth or of the sun or other high beings that have planets of bodies stand behind the process. As there is reincarnation of humans and of minerals, plants, animals, humans, angels, and so forth, there's reincarnation of everything that clings to that which perishes. Mula Prakriti is the essence, matter. Matter is timeless, eternal, but it changes its structure, and by being attached to that structure, we suffer. When you stand behind a process and behind its constituent parts, listen, when you have a contemplative analysis and meditation, you look at them dispassionate. You reach in meditation a dispassionate state. You become like a dispassionate spectator in a world where passion is worshipped and adored. Of course, such a message is, no, that's not for me. Okay, then it's not for you. No problem. This is why I asked you in the beginning, and I ask you over and over again, can you handle the truth? Can you? You observe incessant arising and passing away. And you, the observer, remain more and more entirely untouched, more and more, sooner or later, just meditate, continue meditating. Don't join the masses. Remain for yourself, meditate. Study the Book of Light. You don't have to spread the teaching, no way. The Book of Light is like a radio station. It spreads by itself. People will come into your life, they will ask you a question, and you will answer them, and they may say, I knew that always, but I just was not aware of it. Glory to the Book of Light, dear friends. Glory, glory, glory. Book of Light unites all religions, all sciences, everything in the world. It is the book of consequences. It is specially, that may sound strange to you now, it is specially written for the evil forces. Not to continue doing evil anymore because they are intelligent enough to understand what the consequences are of their evil deeds. As man sows, he shall reap. Life after life. And that part of reincarnation was removed from the Bible. Reincarnation and karma was Bible teaching with originals. Later removed. Why? The pedophile Satanists of the church wanted to have power over the people, telling them, you can't do it yourself, you can't fight that fight. We do it for you. Jesus does it for you. Wonderful. Just give it all to us. Right. Yes, it's true when you try to detach from evil and so forth, higher beings shall assist and help you. Also the Master Jesus. None of the stories in the Bible really happened concerning Jesus or anyone else. They are just parables, they are allegories. The true meaning is revealed in the Book of Light. And this is why the Book of Light shall unite all religions and end the religious wars on earth. Prior to that, before that, unfortunately, the blood will splash meter high. I'm sorry. My teacher, Beatrice Fleming, said to me, the eye must not be able to cry anymore in order to attain the truth. Are you ready for the truth? Can you take the truth? Can you handle the truth? And then continue listening. And the Book of Light goes back over 150 billion years, but to the reawakening of the universe. Some people need to have that knowledge in order to then detach. Others don't need it. Whatever you need, you will find here in this lecture and in the Book of Lights. What do you observe with your body or with the body? The body arises, the body passes away. The body arises and passes away. But you remain untouched by this, because otherwise you would not experience the change. But if you identify yourself too much, if you cling yourself too much to that which arises and passes away, then you risk suffering. What you see before you is nothing but a formation arisen out of four chief elements. And you perceive it always to renew itself out of them. Listen well now. Every doctor, every biologist can confirm that to you. Every 7 or 8 or 9 years approximately, you have a totally new body, totally new organs, totally new molecules and atoms. Do you understand me? You have a new head, a new nose, a new eye, a new brain, a new liver, a new kidney. You don't believe it? Ask an honest, good doctor, an honest, good biologist. He will confirm it to you. So if you would be your body, just for you now as evidence that you are not your body, and every child of a 5-year-old can understand what I'm saying. If a, let's just say 20-year-old, would believe that he is the body he could not remember when he was 7 or 8 years old, or 5 years old, or 10 years old even. Because all 7, 8 years you have a new body. There you have a physical evidence. You don't have to be spiritual or occult or pseudo-esoteric like this nonsense that we... Almost the entire thing that's on the internet is complete nonsense. They teach you how to have self-awareness. You cannot be aware of the self. Because the self is the one that's aware. And every process of awareness is directed away from the one who is aware to that which he is or it is aware of. You understand? So all self-aware seminars are fraudulent, are nonsense. And in the worst case, in the worst definition, they are satanic. They are satanic. Wake up to the truth. But can you handle the truth? That's the question. What do you find when you watch your body? Old fact, you observe, the body arises, the body passes away. The body arises and passes away. But you remain untouched by this if you see it in the right way. What you see before you is nothing but a risen formation. 4 chief elements: earth, water, air, and fire. Right? This body of yours, no matter how many Botox you do and how many surgical tricks, this body of yours is subject to dissolution and decay. So cannot be yourself, otherwise it would be normal for you. Oh, many say, oh, it's normal for me, it's wonderful. Yeah. You lie to yourself, that's what you do. How can that be yourself? Just by analysis. That you perceive passing away before your very eyes. And when you consider this constantly in your mind, that leads you to understanding, to clear comprehension. To clear comprehension. You begin to think about yourself completely different. You perceive that you cannot really consist in what up till now you have thought yourself to consist. You see, and this is dramatic. Most people may agree with me, but they can't handle the truth. They cannot handle the truth and cannot consequently live. Though they fall back into the activity of the senses, they say, yes, that's what I'm not, but I just dive into it. Do it. But there may be some of you, very few of course, who dare to continue to think even more different, more against that direction in which they have been educated and raised and reincarnated for so many times. When you have this consideration constantly before your mind, that which you perceive as arising and passing away, you cannot be yourself, then you understand and you clearly comprehend. You begin to think about yourself completely different. And as it is with the body, dear friends, it is with the entire process of sensation and perception. Then you keep watch about the phenomena of the 6 subjective, objective spheres of sense. How do you do that? How do you watch upon the phenomena of the 6 subjective, objective spheres of sense? You understand the I, and you understand forms, and you understand the connection that comes to be because of these 2. You understand this. Let me tell you, or let me approach that from another point of view. If you want to perceive clearly that the body cannot be you, think about the following. You know that the incessant change of matter within your body has the effect that already, and I said that already to you, after 7, 8, 9 years or so, no atom within it remains the same. The same, it's a new body. Now, there is nourishment newly taken in, and then now an entirely new body has been built up by that nourishment. And so from that you could understand that you are not that which changes. You may identify yourself with it, you may want to keep it healthy and this and that, and be fit and this and that. Oh, true, everything okay. But you are not it. That is the important, consequent thought. What you do with that thought, that's up to you. Just make you aware of it. If you now decide, doesn't matter, I dive into it, I continue identifying myself with the body, although I know I am not it, perfectly all right. We are no cult here from the Book of Light, see? We are none of these pseudo-esoteric occult things. We unite all religions and sciences. We are like a house with no doors and no windows. Everything open, everybody can come in and he can leave again. We are not like some religions when they say, when you leave us, we will kill you. Yeah, sure. That proves the intensity and the truth of what you teach. You have to force it on others. Look at the religions of the world. They had to be forced by the sword. By the way, did you know that Buddhism, although the Book of Light is much more than that, but Buddhism is a part of it, that Buddhism was the only teaching that has not been forced by the sword, no matter how they fight today, but it has not been spread by the sword, just by logical thinking, yeah. And that's what we do here too. We don't need force to force that on you. We present that fact to you, you do with it what you want. Now that we know that we are not all these things, how do we keep watch? For instance, upon sensation. Nirvana is the abolition of sensation and perception. When you experience a pleasant sensation, you are aware, fully aware. I experience a pleasant sensation, which that sensation I'm not, otherwise if it's gone, I would be gone too, and I still remain. So when you experience a pleasant sensation, you say, I experience a pleasant sensation. Now there are in life, I guess, with all of us, unpleasant sensations. You experience unpleasant sensations. You are aware, I experience an unpleasant sensation. And then you experience sensation neither pleasant nor unpleasant. You are aware of that too. You see, you walk through the streets and you see a beautiful woman maybe. And you say, oh, how beautiful. Then you say, you see the feces of a dog. Yeah, but the feces. Both are attachment that will lead to reincarnation. Give you just a little hint, we talk more about that. I always did in Los Angeles with my people. Unfortunately, I was not their guru. I was too much attached to the senses still. Although the teaching was clear to me. We made Anatta Day going through Los Angeles, just looking at everything. Just like a mirror. Observing even our own reactions to it as non-self, as anatta. Just like mirrors. You look at everything. You just look at it, nothing more. Try that. Won't work in the beginning, but it will. When you experience that more and more and more and more and more. And suddenly you will be aware of one fact, and that maybe because then you would not be able to handle the truth. But there could be. You may then say to yourself, I don't belong here. Now many people say, I don't belong here, I belong in a heaven after death, this world is so crazy and so forth. No, but your thought will go further. I don't even belong in a heavenly world because it is transient and transitory. Can you handle the truth? Many Christians and Muslims may shake right now and say, no, heaven is eternal. It's in the scriptures. It's not in your scriptures. It's not. You interpret them wrong. All the heavens shall be rolled up, says in the Quran and in the Bible. And the term eternal, I said it many times, does not exist in the Bible. Aionios does not mean eternal. The Greek translation, it means just a very long time. Yeah, maybe you'll be billions of years in heaven, but especially then when it's over, it may be very painful. Yeah? And don't forget one thing. Let's just remain a moment with the Bible. Where was the first war? Where was the first confrontation? Was it on earth? I don't think so. It was in heaven. So beware, dear angels and dear gods adored by many. You have problems too up there. One of the angels may shine more than the other, and suddenly, there's a confrontation. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? True freedom is only in nirvana, the end of suffering. So we watch upon sensation, pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant, and so forth. In the same way, we can watch over the mind. You perceive a craving, the mind bound by craving. And you perceive uncraving, the mind free from craving. Hating, the mind bound by hatred. Unhating, the mind free from hatred. Deluded, the mind bound by delusion, and undeluded, the mind free from delusion. Now, when you respect things in itself, thus, you constantly watch upon things, and you keep watching everything that happens, how they originate, how it vanishes. And you say, these are things, nothing else. They're not myself. How could they be my true being, which I see fluctuating before me, vanishing and arising before me always anew? How can I that be? I cannot that be. I cannot be that. This observation, dear friends, will never leave you once you understand the teaching, once you go deeper into the Book of Light. This lecture, you should not listen one time to it, you should listen 1,000,000 times to it and study the Book of Light. Then the observation will never leave you because it conduces to comprehension, to thoughtfulness. And you don't lean any more on the things. And sooner or later, you are to nothing attached anymore in the world. And you can only be attached to arising and passing away, which is mortal, by the way. It's mortality. So by detaching from that state of being, you become automatically immortal. How is that? Meditate yourself to the source. By detaching from everything that the source is not. Glory to the Book of Light. Then it will become clear to you that you yourself, in your true essence, can have nothing to do with body, emotion, mind, soul, and even spirit. Nothing to do with your personality. Your true essence must lie beyond the machinery of your personality. You will see that this is only a heap of productions, sankhara, brought forth and carried in ceaseless change, caused by your desire, by your lust for life, by your ignorance, as we shall see. What ignorance? Do I insult you? No. By your ignorance about the fact that that to which you cling will cause you suffering. So you had to cling to it because of necessity. Only when you understand that you are not the mortal, you will truly become immortal. Glory to the Book of Light. I ask you, is the body permanent or transient? And please just answer honest. Is the body permanent or transient? It's transient. That which is transient, is that painful or is it pleasurable? If you look at it in the right way, you see it's in the end, it's painful. Latest when it is taken away from you at death and you still long for it. Come on, be honest. Handle the truth, handle it. And that which is transient, painful, subject to vicissitude and so forth, can you say that this is you, that this is yours? Come on. Be honest, be a real man or woman. Be a monad. You want to know what a monad is? Study the Book of Light. That's the true being. Now, what do you think? Sensation, perception, activities of the mind, cognition, are they permanent or transient? Be honest. Of course, transient. We agreed to that which is transient is painful and not pleasurable, no matter how much pleasure there might be. It's painful. So what is painful, can that be you? You cannot love pain, although many people are masochists. But that too is a state of attachment, of perversion, they have to go through to see that their true happiness is not. So I recapitulate. Let us recapitulate. There's a body, there's sensation, there's perception, there's mentation, there's cognition. All of that, of the past, future, and the present moment, be it yours or somebody else, gross or subtle, mean or exalted, remote or close at hand. All body, sensation, perception, activities of the mind, cognition, has to be regarded, it does not belong to me. It is anatta, it is not myself. You understand now why you are so helpless against the 5 groups constituting your personality, because until now the teachings, all teachings in the world, maybe of necessity, were teaching you how to deal with that which you are not. The best way to deal with it is to detach from it, but in order to do so, you have first to admit that you are not that. Glory to the great Johanno, give me the words. Now, what really and essentially belongs to you, or to be entirely at your own unqualified disposal. Do you agree? And your volition could not possibly come into conflict with your faculties, because volition and the organs of the realization would be in the same degree essential to you. Only what is foreign to you, you must bring first into your power. And exactly that you have to do with the personality. Look at the child, how it is born, and then has to solve all these problems, all the puberty, everything that comes. Personality is a wild tiger. You have to first bring it in your power. What you have to bring in your power is not you. And that's exactly the case with the 5 groups of the personality. Most men cannot dominate them at all. Almost nobody can dominate them entirely, and only a few masters come near to it. And they have reached this through many, many, many reincarnations, incessant exercise and effort. So, to know that would be a contradiction to assert the essence, your essence, to consist in the elements of your personality and thereby to be the personality itself. This is almost a sick thought. It's a perverted thought. It is as perverted as I would say, I am my shirt. Oh, well, there are people, they think they are their clothes, so deeply attached to it that when there's just a little spot on it, they go crazy. This is exactly how they identify with something they are not. There was a guy who was hypnotized. I witnessed it. And the hypnotizer said, you forget everything now, and when you wake up, or when I make this, when I snap my finger, you are your clothes. The clothes are part of your body. This is such an important example, dear friends, listen to it. So he snapped, and then he said to the guy, everything okay? Everything okay. Take off your shirt. The guy tried to take off his shirt. No, I can't. Come on, you can take off your shirt. No. Well, try it. He pulled. Oh, it hurts, it clings to my skin. I am the shirt. How can I take that off? It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Why? Well, I am that shirt. In the same way most people live in the world, dear friends. They think they are the body. Glory to the book of life, glory. These groups of the personality have all their own laws. This is why we don't know our body thoroughly. We cannot deal with sensations really. Some are coming, some are going against our will, thoughts and moods. They are vexing you without you being able to drive them away. Right? Right? You want to oppress them? You want to oppress a thought? It'll, how do you say? It'll come in through another way. And again, it'll haunt you. All these things that you are not. How can you dominate them? Well, first of all, by knowing that you are not them. Because until now, for many billions of years and many reincarnations, they have forced the belief in you that you are them. Can you handle the truth? When you began to listen to the lecture, you wouldn't have thought, if you are so strong and powerful to hang in until now, I'm sure you have not imagined yourself that you would be confronted with such words, right? So all these transient things have their own laws, thoughts, moods, body, sensations. If it would be your real essence, if you would consist in them, it could not be. What really and essentially belongs to you should be at your own unqualified disposal, and your volition could not possibly come into conflict with your faculties, because volition and the organs of its realizations would be, so to speak, in the same degree essential to you. A faculty that really belongs to you, that is essential to you, you should absolutely dominate. Because your essence would consist in putting it into action. Only what is foreign to you, only what is foreign to you, you must first bring into your power. And that exactly is the case with the personality. If you stayed with me until now, then you are ready for the truth. Then you can handle the truth. Part 2 follows.